Good day to all of you, and the topic that we are going to discuss for today is about living with purpose. In this topic, we will going to discuss the following. First is about morality, second is moral reasoning, and the third one is the different parenting styles and practices. Let's move on to the discussion of morality. So at first, we have dilemma, which is a problematic situation in which a difficult choice must be made. When a dilemma occurs, a person has to make the difficult choice between two desirable options or, contrastingly, two undesirable options. The word comes from the Greek dilemma, which is di, which means twice, and lemma, which means premise. It is used in logic and rhetoric when causing an opponent to choose between two unfavorable options. The definition of a dilemma is a situation where there is no clear easy choice or answer. An example of a dilemma is when you only have 2 extra tickets to an event and 3 friends of you wants to go with you. An argument necessitating a choice between equally unfavorable or disagreeable alternatives. Dilemma is also a situation in which a person has to choose between things that are all bad or unsatisfactory. For example, he was faced with a dilemma of having to tell on his best friend or not telling and getting blamed himself. Now let's move on to the next, which is moral. Moral is related to the sense or a standard that determine what is right and what is wrong. Morals are what you believe to be right and wrong. People can have different morals. You might say, I like his morals, or I wonder about his morals. Your morals are your ideas about right and wrong, especially how you should act and treat other people. While most people follow society's laws, they also abide by certain social mores, which are governed by morals. While morals tend to be driven by personal beliefs and values, there are certainly some common morals that most people agree. And they are those. Always tell the truth. Do not destroy property. Have courage. Keep your promises. Do not cheat. Treat others as you want to be treated. Do not judge. Be defendable. Be forgiving. Have integrity. Take responsibility for your actions. Have patience. Be loyal. Have respect for yourself and others. Be tolerant of differences. Seek justice. Have humility. And be generous. Now let's define morality. Morality refers to the system of beliefs and values that ensures that individuals will keep their obligations to others in the society and behave in ways that do not interfere with the rights and interests of others. Morality is the standard of society used to decide what is right or wrong behavior. An example of morality is the belief by someone that it is wrong to take what doesn't belong to them, even if no one would know. Here are some of the ways where you can apply morality into your life. First, consider how you interact with animals. Some folks may think animals don't ethically matter. Next, be kinder to the environment. Then, respect and defend human rights. Become more ethical in your career and engage with medical advances. Remember that an individual who has a good sense of what is right and wrong will be an honest and upright member of the community. Now let's proceed to moral reasoning. Moral reasoning refers to the judgments people make about what courses of action are correct and incorrect situations. Moral reasoning is the study of how people think about right and wrong, and how they acquire and apply moral rules. It is a subdiscipline of moral psychology that overlaps with moral philosophy and is the foundation of descriptive ethics. Moral reasoning refers to the logical process of determining whether an action is right or wrong. Often, one engages in moral reasoning when faced with a decision over what to do, meaning the actions have yet to occur. Moral reasoning also applies critical analysis to specific events to determine what is right or wrong, and what people ought to do in a particular situation. Indeed, the term moral dumbfounding describes the fact that people often reach strong moral conclusions that they cannot logically defend. Let's now move on to Piaget's stages of intellectual development. The first one is the sensory-motor stage, in which the child learns and develops knowledge about his or her environment by relating sensory experiences to motor actions. The sensory-motor stage is the first stage of your child's life, according to Jean Piaget's theory of child development. It begins at birth and lasts through age 2. During this period, your little one learns about the world by using their senses to interact with their surroundings. At this stage, the child relies on seeing, touching, sucking, feeling, and using their senses to learn things about themselves and the environment. Piaget calls this the sensory-motor stage because the early manifestations of intelligence appear from sensory perception and motor activities. The second stages of intellectual development, according to Piaget, is the pre-operational stage, in which the child learns to use symbols like words or mental images to solve simple problems. Piaget's stage that coincides with early childhood is the pre-operational stage. According to Piaget, this stage occurs from the age of 2 to 7 years old. In the pre-operational stage, children use symbols or represent words, images, and ideas, which is why children in this stage engage in pretend play. During the pre-operational stage, children also become increasingly adept at using symbols, as evidenced by the increase in playing and pretending. For example, a child is able to use an object to represent something else, such as pretending a broom as a horse. During this period, children are thinking at a symbolic level but are not yet using cognitive operations. The child's thinking during this stage is pre-operations. This means the child cannot use logic or transform, combine, or separate ideas. The next stage is the concrete operational stage, in which the child develops the ability to perform a number of logical operations on concrete objects that are present. The concrete operational stage is the third stage in Piaget's theory of cognitive development. The child is now mature enough to use logical thought or operations such as rules, but can only apply logic to physical objects. Hence, it is called concrete operational. From ages 7 to 11, children are in what Piaget referred to as the concrete operational stage of cognitive development. An example of manifestation of concrete adjustment during this stage is once a child has a friend who is rude, another friend who is also rude, and the same is true for a third friend who is also rude. Then the child may conclude that all friends are rude. In the third or concrete operational stage, from age 7 to age 11 or up to 12 years old, occur the beginning of logic in the child's thought processes and the beginning of the classification of objects by their similarities and differences. The fourth and the final intellectual development stage, according to Piaget, is the formal operation stage, in which the individual acquires the ability to solve abstract problems in a logical manner. The formal operational stage is characterized by the ability to formulate hypotheses and systematically test them to arrive at an answer to a problem. The individual in the formal stage is also able to think abstractly and to understand the form or structure of a mathematical problem. The child who needs to draw a picture or use objects is still in the concrete operational stage, whereas children who can reason the answer in their heads are using formal operational thinking. The key difference between the concrete operational child and the formal operational child is the ability to perform mental operations that don't relate to the here and now. As formal operations develop, the child will now be able to apply reversibility to the things that in concrete terms can't be reversed. Let's now proceed to Kohlberg's stages of moral reasoning, which is on to the level of pre-conventional morality under the stage pleasure-pain orientation. Pre-conventional morality is the first stage of moral development and lasts until approximately age 9. At the pre-conventional level, children don't have a personal code of morality, and instead, moral decisions are shaped by the standards of adults and the consequences of following or breaking the rules. Next is cost-benefit orientation, or also known as reciprocity. Reciprocity norms refers to how positive actions bring about more positive actions, while negative actions bring about more negative actions. For example, if a person receives a gift for their birthday, they are more likely to give a gift back to the person on their birthday. More examples of reciprocity include a salesperson giving a freebie to a potential customer, hoping that it will lead them to return the favor by purchasing something. Next, a leader offering attention and mentorship to followers in exchange for their loyalty. The first stage at the level of conventional morality is the good child orientation, often referred to as the good boy, good girl orientation. This stage of moral development is focused on living up to social expectations and roles. There is an emphasis on conformity, being nice, and consideration of how choices influence relationships. Next is law and order orientation. The individual is oriented toward authority, fixed rules, and the maintenance of the social order. Right behavior consists in doing one's duty, showing respect for authority, and maintaining the given social order for its own sake. The last level of Kohlberg's stages of moral reasoning is principled or post-conventional morality, and its first stage is social contract orientation. Social contract orientation at this stage of moral reasoning, the individual acts with an understanding that laws are created by people coming together for the common good, and that these same people can change these laws if new demands or conditions arise. According to Kohlberg, the sixth stage of moral development is the universal ethical principle orientation. At this stage, universal and abstract values such as dignity, respect, justice, and equality are the guiding force behind the development of a personally meaningful set of ethical principles. Lawrence Kohlberg suggested that there may be a seventh stage, transcendental morality or morality of cosmic orientation, which link religion with moral reasoning. At times you might be placed in a dilemma which requires you to decide. You first have to harness your intellectual capacity and reasoning ability in choosing what best decision to take. In situations in which you need to decide in what you think is a noble cause, but which might put you at a disadvantage, you must accept the consequence of that choice. When you are at the crossroads of deciding Always go back to your goals and use your philosophy in life as your guide. Your personal philosophy will no doubt resonate with others, and it will express values like the ones you'll see in the following life philosophy examples, each of which are important for everyone. Here are some of the philosophies that you may use in case you are heading into the crossroads. First, do no harm. Striving for success is a good thing only if it does not harm others. A victory that comes at someone else's expense won't get you closer to becoming a person you'd be proud of. Next, there are no failures, just results to learn from. Tenacity is behind this philosophy. No matter what happens to you, you keep going. No matter how many less than desirable results you get, you keep moving toward your goal and taking action to get closer to it. Another, you are here to make good things happen. This is your philosophy, or maybe part of it. If you believe your purpose in life is to make good things happen for the people in your world, those you love, those in your community, and those beyond it, you are here to make the world better, one person and one action at a time. You believe your life won't be well spent unless you have a positive impact on those around you. Next thing, keep stretching and challenging yourself. This one is about courage, since it requires you to step outside your comfort zone. You know that a world of life-changing opportunities exists outside it. Next is, the flow state is where the magic happens. Cognitive understanding is great, but if you've ever been in a state of creative flow, you know that the difference between the flow state and cognitive understanding is like the difference between intuition and reasoning. There are advantages to letting go of conscious control and allowing the flow to take you over. You become a conduit of thoughts, ideas, and feelings you didn't know were accessible to you. Next, you don't have to understand everything. Having a full life doesn't require a full understanding of everything that matters to you. How boring would life be if you already had everything figured out? Life is a lot more fun when you still have learning to do. Another philosophy is personal integrity should guide every action. Integrity is wholeness. When you act with integrity, you behave in a manner consistent with your beliefs. Operating outside of your values undermines your integrity. It will divide you. Commit to always acting with integrity, and people will know what to expect of you. They'll trust you to comport yourself in a way that reflects your moral code. Next is, impact matters more than intent. However noble your intentions, if someone's experience causes them to receive your words or actions in a way you don't intend, you owe it to both of you to take a closer look. If relationship matters more to you than being right, the impact of your words should matter more than your intent. Never assume it's the other person's fault for taking your comments the wrong way. If you first send the wrong message, apologize. Learn where you went wrong and try again. Learn how others can interpret your words based on their experiences. Your filter is yours and your experience is not universal. Another philosophy is be mindful in both your personal and professional life. It's important to stop regularly and look inward. Pay attention to what you're feeling or thinking, whether you're relaxed, anxious, or somewhere in the middle. Don't judge yourself for thinking or feeling things that don't seem to fit the person you want to be. You're human, and you're still getting to know yourself and the person you want to grow into. Practicing mindfulness helps you stay connected to the source of your actions, and the more aware you are of what's going on behind the scenes, the easier it is to build new habits that are consistent with your values. Another philosophy, learn by doing. As valuable as book learning is as much as you can. Learn from watching YouTube videos. Nothing can replace actual doing the thing. Don't worry if you don't do it correctly or even well. Practice will help you improve. Those were actually 10 of the philosophies that you may use as your guide in crossing all the challenges in your life. And let's now proceed to the parenting styles and practices. The first topic is about the environmental influence, which is characterized by forces outside of the individual, like how he or she has been raised or reared by his or her parents. The environment can facilitate or discourage interactions among people and the subsequent benefits of social support. For example, an inviting space with comfortable chairs and privacy can encourage a family to stay and visit with a patient. The environment can influence people's behavior and motivation to act. And now let's have the parenting styles according to Diana Baumgren. Authoritarian parents, which is an attempt to shape, control, and evaluate the behavior and attitudes of their children in accordance with an absolute set of conduct standards that usually comes from religious or respected authorities. Authoritarian parenting is an extremely strict parenting style. It places high expectations on children with little responsiveness. As an authoritarian parent, you focus more on obedience, discipline, control, rather than nurturing your child. They expect the child not to make mistakes and to obey them. For instance, parents are more likely to be identified as authoritarian if they strongly agree with statements like, "When I ask my child to do something and he asks why, I say something like, 'Because I said so,' or 'Because I want you to do it.' I punish my child by withholding expressions of affection." Next is authoritative parents, which direct their children's activities in a rational and intelligent way. Authoritative parenting is a parenting style characterized by high responsiveness and high demands. Authoritative parents are responsive to the child's emotional needs while having high standards. They set limits and are very consistent in enforcing boundaries. Authoritative parents communicate lots of warmth to their kids. They avoid using harsh or arbitrary punishment. They listen to their children's concern and take them into account. They help kids figure out what went wrong and explain the consequences of good and bad behavior. Another parenting style is permissive parents, which are less controlling and behave with an accepting and non-punishing attitude towards their children's desires, actions, and impulses. Permissive parenting is a type of parenting style characterized by low demands with high responsiveness. Permissive parents tend to be very loving, yet provide few guidelines and rules. These parents do not expect mature behavior from their children and often seem more like a friend than a parental figure. Permissive parents are warm and responsive, and that's a good thing. Studies show that affectionate, responsive parenting fosters secure attachment relationship. It promotes psychological development and protects children from toxic stress. Another parenting style was introduced by Macaulay and Martin, and it is the uninvolved or neglectful parents who take on a hands-off stand in the affairs of their children. Uninvolved parenting, sometimes referred to as neglectful parenting, is a style characterized by a lack of responsiveness to a child's needs. Uninvolved parents make few to no demands of their children, and they are often indifferent, dismissive, or even completely neglectful. And we will now proceed to the effects of the different parenting style. Authoritarian parents are demanding, and their children have fewer behavioral problems which are easily prevented. However, studies show that children reared under autocratic parents tend to become withdrawn, fearful, and dependent. The negative side effects of this type of parenting include children are aggressive but can also be socially inept, shy, and cannot make their own decisions. Children in these families have poor self-esteem, are poor judges of character, and will rebel against authority figures when they are older. Overall, most research has found that the strictest form of authoritarian parenting is associated with more negative effects in children. These effects include showing poor social skills and lower levels of self-esteem. However, children who are reared by authoritative parents are children who are independent, reliable, rational, and confident. These children generally feel good about themselves. Kids raised by authoritative parents are more likely to become independent, self-reliant, socially accepted, academically successful, and well-behaved. They are less likely to report depression and anxiety, and less likely to engage in antisocial behavior like delinquency and drug use. Permissive parents rarely impose rules and are non-punishing, thus they tend to have children who do not put structure and order in things that they do. Studies show that children of permissive parents tend to have lower academic achievement. Permissive parents do not control or regulate their children's behavior, so their children are less aware of the limits of acceptable behavior. They also exhibit worse impulse control, and have more behavioral problems. And the last one is the effects of parenting styles of uninvolved parents who are detached and indifferent to the needs of their children. As such, children grow up feeling unloved and cannot follow instructions. Researchers associate parenting styles with a range of child outcomes in areas such as social skills and academic performance. The children of uninvolved parents generally perform poorly in nearly every area of life. These children tend to display deficits in cognition, attachment, emotional skills, and social skills. And that concludes our lesson, Living with Purpose. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.